Hello, my name is Jared Morris, and this is Settled Christianity coming at you with a brand new video in our new series, The UnPreachables, looking at some verses and passages in the Bible that you've probably never heard preaching on because they're too weird or too bizarre or kind of hard to grasp, kind of hard to grasp theologically. And this is one of those verses that you probably all heard and you've probably all seen. You may have debated this verse. This is a fun verse that it's fun just to bounce around in conversations, but it's not really a good verse for preaching on many times. And if you've seen the title of the video, you might suspect where I'm going with this. It's Genesis chapter 6 and 1 through 2. It says, "And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose." And it goes down in 4. It says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown." And so, obviously, the major question here, if you've ever heard this verse discussed, is who exactly are these sons of God? Now, there's only one other usage in the Old Testament, and this is in Job. It's in Job chapter 1, uh, and let's see here, down in verse 6. So Job 1:6 says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them." And there's a few variations on how you can read this verse in Genesis. Uh, because going off of this, many people have offered that the most literal way to read it is sons of God being angels, because that seems to be what Job is talking about. And that Genesis 1 is talking about fallen angels having children with earthly people, earthly women, and actually getting married to them, it seems. And that these children of theirs ended up being many times people say that they were the giants being talked about a few verses later. And this is, this version, this idea of what this verse means is so bizarre. It's usually rejected by many just on face value of how weird it is. So another interpretation that's been offered is that the sons of God there is talking about the goodly line of people in that day. Usually the line of Seth is being talked about, and that Seth's line begins intermingling with the wicked line of Cain, or the wicked line of whoever is whoever you consider really there, just whoever was wicked in those days. Seth's line started intermingling with this, and that this is just talking about that even the good people begin intermingling. And this is the version that's held by a lot of people. But I'll offer a third suggestion, one that's kind of interesting, is that instead reading the verse in Job to be referring to earthly people. So people usually read this and says that there was, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And as I've said, a lot of people take this as meaning angels, and that Satan was in the midst of them. But I've also heard the argument that this could potentially be talking about earthly people, be talking about godly people who love the Lord, came to present themselves, and Satan was there causing temptation and dispute. He was in the midst of this religious crowd. And that in this way, what Genesis 6 would be talking about is not about angels or the line of Seth, but instead that there came a point when even the uh, remnant of people in that day, even the godly people, began intermingling themselves. And, I think this third one is probably one of the most reasonable. And other than that, I think that, if I had to come down on one side of the issue, I'd probably say that it is referring to angels, honestly. And this is a whole other debate. And once again, that is such a pointless debate. And you might be wondering, well, why does this matter? Why does this matter if whether it's an angel or not? It doesn't really affect anything nowadays. But I want to get to the heart of the verse, what the verse is really saying, and some practical information we can get from it. And the good lesson, the big lesson of that verse, is that no matter who you are, no matter how close to God you were in times past, or no matter how close to God you are now, it does not mean that you cannot fall at any point. If this is talking about angels or the goodly line of Seth or the godly remnant in those days, regardless of which one it's talking about, the main point is that all people can fall, no matter how holy they were at one point of time. And I think over in one of the Peters, it talks about, I think it's in Second Peter, he says, if God did not overlook the sins of the angels, essentially, me paraphrasing here, it says if God did not overlook them, but punished them and punished Sodom and Gomorrah, it says how much more you? This is a very, very powerful lesson, I believe, and I think that it is it's avoided many times because many preachers, it's just better not to take a position on such a weird position, weird argument on the sons of God. But I think it is important for all of us to look at this and know that if this is talking about angels, then man, these angels saw the face of God Himself and still fell. And that if this is talking about the line of Seth, that this means that these people had a good line, that they had good parents and they had a good tradition to look back to, and they didn't do it. They left that tradition to go to the world. And if this is just talking about the Christian remnant in that day, it means that these these people who was once serving God, ended up corrupting themselves with the world. Um, and so I encourage you to, look in your own life and think that, never get to the point where you think I can't fall. I've, come so close to God that I'm, I have this special thing with God, or that I have this good tradition behind me. I go to a good church, etc., that I can never fall, that can never be me. But because it can. That Paul says that, it would be awful if after all the preaching he's done, he ends up becoming a castaway. And I encourage you to look in yourself and think, to make that determination that I am not going to fall away, that I'm never going to become prideful in where I stand now. And just know every single day I have to rely on God, because no matter your background, you can still fall. And given that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't think Grace's video will be out this week. I think it'll be next week, if I'm not mistaken. But, just be on the lookout for that, and be lookout for my videos on Sunday. And follow us on Facebook. It would be a great help. And as always, like, subscribe, share this video. It really helps. Your support is always very, very deeply appreciated. And with that, this has been Settled Christianity. I'm Jared Morris, helping you continue in the faith.